I'm the Senior Director of Arts and Culture at the 14th Street Y and the Director of LABA globally. And it's been a weird time and year, and physically I'm also right now distant from New York, so really bizarre. In January 2019, we held the first in-person JPAP. It was inspired by APAP, and we said, so many people are in town. It's crazy that there's no showcase bringing everybody together to experience and talk to these wonderful artists. It was a wider array of artists. This time, everybody is a LABA alum or artist, except for Adam, who we have to bring into the city, but is really close and affiliated. So we wanted to give them a stage and also give them a space to show work that they've been doing during the pandemic. I'm going to pop their emails into the chat while they present if you have questions, to start that process. There's also a PDF that we created about the work, their resume, and ways to contact them and see more about their work. And I'm going to put my email in there too. If you want to chat about anything, brainstorm, collaborate, we are open and hoping to work with everybody. So welcome, and let's begin.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm really grateful to Ronit and everybody at LABA who helped organize this. My name is Hadar Ahuvia, and I live in Brooklyn, what is the homeland of the Lenape people, known as Lenape-Hoking. And I'm a dancer, a choreographer, and been working in Jewish community for 10 years. And I'm also deepening into the study of the cantorial tradition in this pandemic time. And I chose to show an older work today that during the pandemic, I got a chance to finish this essay that has just been published in the Oxford Handbook of Jewishness and Dance that Jesse and Adam are also, and Yehuda are also featured in. And it feels like a work that is still resonant. It launched me into doing a lot of group work around Israeli folk dance. My mom was an Israeli folk dancer and I danced with her. And this piece was the beginning of me developing a non-Zionist Israeli identity and imagining how could I choreograph my way beyond Zionism. Is that even possible? Those were my questions. And in the excerpt that you'll see, I'm singing a song by Rachel, the poetess, and she was one of the first women to write in modern Hebrew. And this song was set to music in the 30s. She was writing about her longing to be on Kibbutz Kinneret. She got tuberculosis and had to leave. And so this longing to live the pioneer life, and I hear in this song, I both connect to the longing, my longing for the land, for my family living in the US most of my life, and also a longing for a kind of denial around the history of the founding of the state. And so that launched me into this poem. You'll hear me rearrange the song and then offer a translation and then my adaptation of that poem.
And maybe it never happened. And maybe I never arose at dawn to the field to work it with a sweaty brow. And I never stood atop wagons weighted with harvest and raised my voice in song. I was never absolved by the sapphire stillness and the innocence of the Sea of Galilee. Oh, my Sea of Galilee, were you so, or did maybe we never stood atop observation towers and proclaimed our rights in song? We never triumphed by the labor of our hands and denial of the shepherd, and by our will to live and our will to ignore. Was it so, or did I dream a dream? And maybe it never happened, and maybe we didn't wake before dawn to the villages to clear them with a bloody brow, and we never stood by the side of the road and raised and shot the rifle in hand, and we were never absolved by the constant spines and the yearning of the Jerusalem pine. O Jerusalem pines, do you cover their homes or an ancient scene? Maybe we didn't obfuscate, and this is just a dream. Maybe we didn't wake before dawn, and maybe we never awoke from the terror, and maybe we took what was rightfully ours and they dreamt a dream. And maybe she was never ours, and she never stood waiting for our forefathers and foremothers and us, for my grandmothers and grandfathers, for my mother and father and me, but had many loves. And maybe we never doubted their intelligence, and maybe we never doubted their capacity for love, and maybe the land is not full of our blood, sweat, and tears, but their and our blood, sweat, and tears. And maybe I was never complicit in any trail of tears. And maybe we were never gagged, betrayed, expelled, starved, gassed, burned, pawned, and maybe we never lied, denied, displaced, raised, besieged, detained, attacked, and maybe there were in the world a people just as heroic, righteous, generous, gifted, and virtuous as us. And maybe their patience and virtue will outlast ours. And maybe we were never lured by the power of purse and force, and maybe they never fled because they were never there, and maybe we didn't shoot at them as they left to make sure they never returned, and maybe we were just taking orders, and maybe we haven't disguised their villages in our national forest, and maybe we aren't burning their groves at harvest, and we aren't kidnapping 12-year-olds, and we aren't bulldozing their homes, and we haven't carved up what remains of them and their land, and it isn't and never was enshrined policy to deter with outlandish force, and we didn't grant them our ghetto, and we aren't holding them siege. And maybe we could trust them, and maybe we need a home, and maybe they need a home, and maybe we're safe, and maybe I'm wrong, and you can blame me when we're pushed to the sea, and she'll absolve us, and we'll come to find it was just a nightmare.
Thanks, Ronit, and thank you, Hadar. I encourage you all to watch the video of Hadar's work. That particular iteration of the work was presented, or Hadar shared it at the University of the Arts, which is where I teach in Philadelphia, and it's really an extraordinary work. So I just want to give a plug for that. So thank you, Hadar. My name is Jesse Zaritt. I am a dance artist based now between Philadelphia and New York on Lenape land. I think I'm going to read what I wrote because I'm a little nervous. So being able to kind of see my words will help me. Before introducing the work I want to share with you this morning, I just want to take a moment to kind of name some of the influences that have been really profound for my work, and kind of share a little bit the network that I'm coming out of. And the first piece is my parents, and then I want to recognize Shen Wei, a choreographer I've worked with for a long time. Donna Faye Birchfield directs the dance program at the University of the Arts, where I teach choreographers Netta Yerushalmi, Deborah Hay, Faye Driscoll, Juma Tatu Poe, Niall Jones, Sarah Shelton Mann. So just a couple names of folks who've had a real deep influence on my work. So today I'm going to share an excerpt of a solo called No End of Detail. And this work is performed to a manipulated recording of Cantor Ozzie Schwartz singing the liturgical poem Hayom Harat Olam in an arrangement by Eli Jaffe. This is a text that's embedded in the liturgy of Rosh Hashanah. So the solo is an experiment in body building and dissolution. I'm interested in the making and unmaking of the self, like how we make ourselves up, how we make believe into becoming kind of the bodies and people that we are. I'm interested in moving within the embrace of Jewish text and song, music that offers me a visceral reminder of my childhood in the conservative movement as an Ashkenazi Jew in the United States. So in this solo, I'm moving within the embrace of the music through its evocation of yearning and mourning, and trying to get towards an experience of disorientation and ecstatic undoing.
Hi, everyone. I also just want to say I saw Jesse's solo at Triskelion, and it was amazing. So also I'm plugging Jesse. Thank you. My name's Rebecca Margolick. I am an independent choreographer and dancer currently based in Peekskill, New York, which is about an hour north of the city, on Wappinger and Munsee Lenape land. I'm originally from Vancouver, Canada, so I also work a lot in Canada. My solo and multidisciplinary work has been presented around the world, but I actually will be presenting a work that is a collaboration with a Toronto-based choreographer, Alan Kasia. And I'm also going to read because I also get nervous on Zoom. So the solo is called Trace Elements, and it's a 15-minute solo that was originally created for my mother, Mary Louise Albert, in 2001 while she was still dancing. And then we were commissioned to reimagine and recreate this solo, Alan and myself, at the end of 2019. So this solo explores the impact of Jewish history on past and present day anti-Semitism and cultural intolerance. The text and the music of the solo has not changed since 2001, but the movement has shifted quite a bit to reflect myself in the work. The text in the solo draws on a real life conversation between two young German adults in a bar in Berlin in 2000. And it's a conversation between a woman talking about her mother as a young woman during World War II and a neo-Nazi man. And so the solo carries a lineage of movement and identity from mother to daughter, and a connection between different generations of the Jewish experience between Alan, myself, and his family, and my family. Alan is the son of a Holocaust survivor, so he has a whole body of work about the Holocaust. And so there's like when the solo was made originally, it was the wish that it was based on the memory of persecution, but reviving it 19 years after it was made, it's unfortunately as relevant today as it was back then. It's an eerie reminder of how quickly things can change and how easy it is to embrace an apathetic and passive mindset towards intolerance, and how easy it is for fascism to disguise itself under economic freedom. The movement itself draws between my mother's movement, so there's also like me reflecting her movement, Alan's movement, and then my own movement. Yeah, so I'm just going to show like an excerpt from a show in Vancouver in 2020. Thanks.
Once in a bar in New York, I met an old man who was Jewish. He was in Germany before the war, but he escaped to America. He wanted to tell me his life story. I didn't want to hear about it. It had nothing to do with me. He wanted to give me a gold necklace. He was a Jew. He really wanted me to take it. I didn't want it. I didn't even know him. He only wanted to give it to me because I was German. It was important to him to show me he didn't hold it against me. But what has that got to do with me? Maybe if he had been talking to my mother. But she was just a young woman herself then. And I wasn't even born yet. So for sure, it has nothing to do with me. I just wanted to get out of there. I guess it was just one of those things that happened to you in a bar in New York.
Take Poland, for example. There we have a legitimate concern. The border with Poland was drawn when Germany was not in a condition to dispute it. But there are many arguments we should have some in that land. The most significant is one that we need it. Do you know this term Lebensraum? Well, Germany needs space to grow. And yet here are the Poles upset about the unification, about the German interest in reopening the border question. They have all that space, but they don't know how to use it. So they just do nothing with it. Poland has never really been a country.
My mother comes from a village near Dachau. Have you heard of Dachau? Well, she lived right there, and they didn't know what was going on there. Normal people didn't know. My mother told me they used to see groups of prisoners from the chains coming out the gates to go to work. They looked pretty bad. Some people felt sorry for them. But what could you do? A friend of my mother's even passed food through the fence. But you could get into trouble for doing that. My mother had a boyfriend who was a guard in the camp. He told her, he said, "Do you know what's going on in there? Terrible things are going on. They are killing people." But this boy was very critical about everything. He was sort of a rebel. My mother thought he must be a communist, so she didn't believe him. Anyway, it's nothing to do with me. I wasn't even born yet, and I hardly know anything about it.
So this is the context in which you must understand the German situation, this new Europe, the European community. This body that is Europe, each must fulfill the role to which he is best suited. We are best suited to be the head. Thus we cannot be anything but the head. But this is in our nature. In the nature also of the body as a whole. Do you understand? It is a matter of natural order.
Hi, my name is Doron Perk. I'm originally from Israel, but now have been living in New York for the past 5-6 years. I'm a dancer, I create my own work, I teach. I've been working with Zvi for the past 5, since I'm here, I teach Gaga. And last year I was lucky enough to be a fellow at the LABA program at the 14th Street Y, which was an amazing experience. Really thankful for it. And I got to create this new piece. And so the piece I'm presenting today, it's called Grandfather Visit. And it's based on the many visits I had with my grandfather in the last few years of his life. His name was Doron Perk. He passed away about 2.5 years ago. And not soon after he passed away, I kind of decided I'm going to create this piece. And I was working on it by myself for a long time, especially when the pandemic started. I was working on it alone in my little bedroom and just having a reason to get up in the morning and kind of do my own self-therapy, kind of dealing with the loss of my my grandfather through this piece. And then when I got the fellowship, I also had the opportunity to work in a studio, and like finally we had it in the theater this October. So it really took a long time, but eventually now it's alive, which is really, really fun. And he was a Holocaust survivor also, and his story is this story of Zionism. He grew up in Lithuania, which in a very Zionist Jewish community, and eventually his whole family did not survive. He survived by jumping out of the moving train and pretending to be a Lithuanian for 9 months until he could get his certificate to come to what was then Palestine. So this kind of story is the story that I grew up with, but the piece is more about my relationship to this story than retelling of the story. Just my relationship to my grandfather's personality, the heritage that he brought with him, the stories he used to say, and just framed around the narrative of the visit to just create this kind of narrative clarity. I arrive, we have the visit, and then I leave. What you're gonna see today is just a trailer. So it's just a very short edited section. The full thing is about 40 minutes. So if you want to see the full thing, there is the link in the brochure. If you want to talk to me and me sending you different excerpts of it, because there are different, I made different cuts of it, but basically the full thing is 40 minutes and it can stand on its own with like a talk back afterwards. That's how we did it in LABA, and it was very, very meaningful. So yeah, and thank you everyone for being here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Yehuda Hyman. I'm the director of Mystical Feet Company. I'm laughing because I see your faces and it makes me smile. Thank you, Ronit, and thank you, Chrissy, and thank you, these beautiful choreographers. It's great to be here. So you're going to see two short excerpts from a piece I've been making the last 2 years called Secret of the Possible. Just to give you a little background, the origin of this is in my childhood. My father was from Poland. When I was a child, he did a fragment of a Hasidic dance. He was not Hasidic at all, but he grew up in a town in Poland where everyone sort of lived next to each other. And I was mystified and curious, and I spent the rest of my life searching for the rest of that dance. In grad school at Sarah Lawrence College about 8 years ago, I did my big research project on Hasidic dance, and I was amazed to find this treasure trove of hundreds of stories specifically about dance in the Hasidic community in the 18th century, and the transformative power of it, and the joy, and how it helped people out of difficult situations. So I took that material. I've been working with dancers, 5 dancers for the last 2 years, 1 month live at the beginning, and then mostly on Zoom, and then live again last summer. And I'm going to show you, or we're going to show you a little, 2 excerpts from 2 pieces. The first was done this past summer at Governor's Island. as part of a residency with West Harlem Art Fund. And it's called This Is the Time to Dance. Yeah, I should know that. It's called This Is the Time to Dance, apropos, from the 18th century. And then the second is a piece called Effect. And it's about the effect of a story in 24 words that the Maggid of Zaritt told his followers, and how they each interpreted it differently. And in this excerpt, all the dancers that I worked with interpreted it differently. I'm not going to take the time now to introduce everybody. It's all on my video, which you can go to my website and you can see all the names of the dancers and the musicians. I think that's all I want to say, and I'm very grateful to be here, and thank you.
And so our story begins. It's a story within a story within a story. There was an old man.
A very, very old man.
A righteous man.
Beloved by all.
And he was dying.
Come and see.
Tachazeh. Was on his deathbed.
And suddenly he got up.
No, please lie back.
Please lie back. You just woke up.
Save your strength, please.
Please, take
rest.
pain,
We
please.
can get you anything.
Please, what do you need?
And he began to dance.
No.
Stop.
You should lie
please.
back down. You just got up. You're gonna hurt yourself. Please, just lie back down.
Please lie
You don't have the strength to do this.
This is the time to dance.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. Adam McKinney here. I'm calling in from Wichita, an affiliated tribal land. Some people know it as Fort Worth, Texas, USA, where I am one of 3 Jewish dance professors at Texas Christian University. I am also the co-director of DNA Works, which my husband Daniel and I started in 2006. We are an arts and service organization committed to healing through the arts and dialogue. And our interest as a company is to bring people and communities closer together through arts and culture. This week, we announced that with a group of 6 other organizations, we purchased a 1925 Ku Klux Klan auditorium in Fort Worth, Texas, that we're transforming into the Fred Rouse Center for Arts and Community Healing. And so we welcome you to come on down to Texas to check us out. I'm a queer Black Native Jew and have often received the question, "How are you Jewish?" To which my response has always been, "I'm fine Jewish. How are you Jewish?" Chimamanda Adichie talks about the danger of a single story, that when we interpret people, any people, as being only one way, we risk a critical understanding about ourselves, who we are, our connections to one another, and who we have always been. So one of the goals of DNA Works is to normalize Jewish stories that are not only Ashkenazi. In 2010, we created a work called Hamapa the Map. It's a genealogical dance journey. It's a solo work that I dance in, as a way to offer a more complex understanding and representation of who we are as Jews. Hamapa the Map has toured around the United States, Europe, and Africa since that time. To make the work more accessible to more audiences, over a 4-year period with documentary filmmaker Laura Bustillos Jaques, we created Hamapa the Map Dance on Film that we just unveiled in 2020, whereby we returned to my ancestral lands, Benin, West Africa, Poland, and around the United States, to research the possibility of healing transgenerational trauma. Trauma theorists believe that in order to heal transgenerational trauma, that we must go back to original sites of pain and hurt and replace old memories with new ones. And so what you'll see today is an excerpt from Hamapa the Map Dance on Film. The first section is called Box, and it was filmed in La Route des Esclaves, the route of the slaves in Benin, West Africa, and Mom's Mom, that is based in Kolbushova, Poland, and in Harlowton, Montana, which was a center of Jewish life between 1918 and 1931 when my Jewish family lived there. The last thing that I'll mention is that what I think also makes this particular work meaningful are the community story circles that Daniel and I lead after each presentation. As a way to demystify performance and to complete the circle that is performance, we welcome audiences to share their own stories and experiences related to the work as it pertains specifically to racism, anti-Semitism, and anti-gay oppression. All right, let's roll that footage. I was given my name, first man of day and molded into the spirit of two, of both man and woman. I am Eagle Dancer, screeching from the sky, whole and full and all and not half anything, but two.
spirit. I am medicine person, orator, and keeper of sacred songs, historian, storyteller, leader, and peacekeeper. I name myself now in this place, Red Earth. And we are of the same blood, our chromosomes commingling, spiraling, moving, spinning.
This is such a mixed up tape, but this is a story that just occurs to me and I do have to tell it to you. My grandmother and grandfather were Jacob and Ita Wadler Allweiss. They lived in Sedlenka, which was at the foot of the Carpathian Mountains in Austria. To the union of Jacob and Ita Allweiss were born 12 children. Aaron, my father, Harry, who married Sylvia. I remember how she used to smell when she bent over to kiss us goodnight. She wore Caranome face powder. She was about 5 feet 2 inches tall, very small bone, glistening black hair and very large dark eyes, and a creamy, almost translucent complexion. Daddy was very, very eager to move to Montana to become part of the westward push. He loved being an American. He loved being an American businessman. He didn't like the hint of an accent. And he would jump with such joy, as tall as Daddy was. That's how tall he could jump. How did I get on the subject of the dog? Oh, about the hub at Main Street. Can you picture the Main Street? Dusty, wide sidewalks. It was in the middle of the block, just north of the Graves Hotel on Main Street, on the west side of the street, as I recall. I think the hub burned down. I'd like to tell you a story about what it was like to be Jewish. How did you feel about the Allweisses being the only Jews in the whole county? And Marjorie said, well, we never thought of them as any different than we were. And I said, oh, Marjorie, don't you remember my mother used to light candles on Friday night? Because I knew she'd been at our house on Friday night. And Marjorie said, oh, that. I thought that was because you were classy.
So we have a couple of moments, people, if you want to ask any questions, if you have specific questions about the movement, the performance, if it's one person, I don't know, share or just thoughts or love, whatever you want. Just unmute and yeah, let's practice Zoom talk.
I just want to share that I've seen Adam perform live and he's extraordinary. So I hope you get to see them as I think I've seen all, yes, I've seen all of the LABA performers perform live and they're all beautiful performers. So.
And you too.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy that we managed to see all the pieces. Of course, go to their website, watch much more of their work. They're really, really moving individuals and talents. And when we were getting ready for this, They really talked about what it means to support each other and be here with each other for this work. And they really pulled all of this together and initiated and made. So I want to thank them and also share this feeling of being moved. And even in this like weird, bizarre time of ebbs and flows of feeling normal and totally not normal, that we're here for each other. Also with all the people who joined us today. And you know, if anything can bring us hope, it's this work, the movement, their talent, and the beauty that they bring into the world. So share it, program them, invite them to create new work, and have a great Shabbat.